welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So, saving asparagus seeds. Basically, the one thing I will say is if you're not a particularly patient person and you like to get reasonably quick results, then there's a much quicker way of doing this, and that's basically go out and buy the asparagus plants that are already established. Asparagus can take up to 4 or 5 years to establish itself from a seed, and so most certainly what I would suggest you do is if you do want to get asparagus within a year or so of planting, then you need to go and buy the plants. They can be reasonably expensive. Mail order is pretty good. You can get reasonably cheap ones, but saving the seeds anyway, coming to that. So as you can see, there are all the seeds on there, and all you need to be doing is, you don't need to be particularly delicate like I'm at the moment. All you got to do is just basically knock them off, and they're like little berries. Now in each berry, I think there's 4 little black seeds, and all you need to be doing is knocking them all off into a tub. What I've got down here is just not the mushroom tubs you get from the supermarket, and if you just rub your hand up the branches like that, they will sort of knock off quite easily. You don't need to be too gentle. If you pop them, it doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. They'll dry just the same. And what you need to do is there's quite a few seeds, because what you want to do is plant a reasonable batch of plants. And what you do is basically, as I say, if you want to have asparagus, what I would suggest you do is that the plants you need to sort of change every few years anyway. So to get yourself started, go and buy some and put them in the ground. And then these ones that you plant now will be the plants that you put in or sort of grow on to provide you with asparagus in, say, 4 years time, 3 years time, so you have established. So as soon as you've done that, as you can see, I've very quickly got all of the berries off that sort of branch, and I've ended up with, I don't know, probably about 100 berries in there. I'm just going to, there's a few on the surface here which I'm just going to quickly knock in. Now, as I say, in each one of these berries, there's you can see that there's there you go. There's 100 berries or so in there. Now, what you need to do is basically just put them out like that, so that they're single file on there. You know, just along the bottom of a reasonably big box. Obviously, notice I've used a reasonably big box. Put them in the greenhouse, dry them out, and what they'll do is they'll kind of dry up, and they'll go like a they'll lose the red colour, and they'll go like a browny colour. As soon as you've done that, what you can do is just rub them between your hands, and what I'll do, I'll just open one up now so you can actually see it. But there's the berry, and inside there's, as you can see, there's actually 5 black seeds in there. So there's the. Now what I suggest you do is don't bother breaking them quite yet. Just leave them in the berries. That's what I do, and then those will basically dry up. Now, the way I look at it is the berry kind of protects them a little bit. So, working with Mother Nature, I would leave them like that. Let them dry out in the greenhouse. As soon as they've dried out, you can just break them, just rub them in your hands, and those little black seeds will come out. Next spring, probably, I'd suggest March time. What you do is you just plant them into a, like, you know, the little modules. You know, where you get like 12 in a tray. Plant them into there. You only need them really shallow, maybe sort of 1/4 of an inch deep, or sort of 6 millimeters deep in there. Nice fine soil, compost, and then leave them in there for the first year. At the end of kind of this time next year, you'll pot them up into pots about that big, and basically what you do is just put one of the modules in the, you know, in the middle of there. and then as soon as they've sort of grow on, what you'll find is they'll grow to kind of this high the second year, so about, I don't know, about 14 inches high, and then after that you can put them out into the ground and grow them on, which is exactly how I grew all of these. Now the one thing I will say is you won't be able to crop from them until they're probably 3 or 4 years old, depending on the ground that you put them in. So, as I say, if you are wanting to crop asparagus within a year of planting the plant, I most certainly would advise you to go out to a mail order and buy the basically the root of the plant ready to go, and then you can basically put that in the ground, and then within 12 months you'll be able to cut the shoots off in the spring. But that's asparagus for you. Okay, so just a quick update on the tomato seeds. Now these are the tomato seeds that we saved a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, they've dried out. Unfortunately, they get stuck onto the tissue paper, as you can see. So what you need to do, which is easier said than done, is basically pull them off. I find using a little scalpel helps quite a lot, but basically pull them off the tissue paper and then put them in a little brown paper bag. Obviously mark them up so you know what to go, but they're basically the money maker seeds for next year, and they've all dried up now, so they're okay to go into a little packet to be stored for winter. The other seeds that we've taken, these are the Nicandra seeds, and they're most certainly nice and dry now, so they can go into a little packet for next year. And the other seeds which are here, so I've got a few beans in here as well, but these are the sweet pea seeds. As you can see, they're nice and hard, so they can be packed away into a packet now, ready for next year. So any seeds that you have taken that have dried out in the summer, in your summer house or in your greenhouse, should be nice and dry now. Obviously these beans are already nice and hard as well, so they can also be stored. So if you have already got your beans up and stuff and they've been drying for a few weeks, you can most certainly pack them away for the winter now. So one question I'm quite often asked is having an allotment actually worthwhile? And you know, obviously apart from the fact that you've got fresh organic vegetables at your at your fingertips, and you can make so much nice food. From a financial point of view, what I always try to do is try to tot up everything that I've spent and basically what produce I've made, and I always put a bit of a sort of spreadsheet together just to see basically where I am. And it's for no other reason. I don't try and make money out of the allotment or anything like that, don't get me wrong, but I always like to sort of know where I am sort of with it, and I just wanted to share with you. Now the one thing I will say is we're not at the end of the season yet. I normally do this sort of in sort of the back end of sort of December sort of time towards Christmas. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick update later on, but I just wanted to, now most of the crops are in, what I wanted to do was just give you an idea basically, because it is a question that I'm asked quite often, and I'll just explain how I do it, and I'll explain basically what I've spent this year to date, and what so what produce the allotment's made. Now bear in mind I've got one allotment, so if you have multiple allotments, you can potentially make more sort of produce and stuff like that. I haven't included things like the squashes and the pumpkins and stuff like that, and the ginger and all other bits and bobs. I'll add that in later. That's the more sort of finer detail really. But I just wanted to let you know, because most of the vegetables in there, the potatoes are in, which is one of the cash crops, all of the fruits in pretty much, and the onions and all the rest of it. I'll explain. Actually, the onions are not in here, but what I'll do is I'll explain basically what where we are today, what I've spent, and everything. So basically going through. So expenditures first. So this is basically the stuff that I've bought for the allotment, and this is stuff that I normally get. Now the seeds that I used this year were bought last year, so by far the majority of them were in last year's budget, if you like, and that was explained last year. But I didn't look back at last year's, to be honest with you. But I would say I've probably spent probably somewhere in the region of about £14–15 worth of seeds this year. I always buy them at the end of the year, so I get them cheap. I normally get them sort of 25, 30, 40p each a packet. And I do buy some seeds over the internet as well, which is another cheap way of doing it. And obviously I save a lot of my own seed as well, so there's what I'm saying. But the expenditures, basically, onion sets cost £6. I bought £15 worth of fertiliser. I bought £40 worth of compost, which was, I think that's 10 80 litre bags of compost. Cost me £40. The allotment fees for the plot were £50. I bought 4 of the seeping hose pipes, which was £6 each, so that's £24. I bought the cucumber plant and the chilli plant and some other bits and bobs, seeds and stuff like that early on in the year. I'll put that down as £20. I bought some debris net a couple of weeks ago, which is for the new tunnel, which is going to be put together shortly. That's cost me £16. I bought that over the internet. The fruit trees that I put in, the pear, the apple and the cherry tree were £3 each from Aldi, so that was £9. And there's another £2 worth of seed, which is when I went to the garden centre a few weeks ago. I'll put that in. So the total expenditure for the allotment this year so far is £188. So weighing that against basically what I've made, and what I will say is not everything is in here yet. I've not included the onions, which is quite a reasonable amount of money. Pumpkins, ginger, and other bits and bobs that that we've had. I've not included that. All of the herbs and stuff like that I typically don't bother with because they're just used all the while. But just to give you an idea of what we've made, the asparagus, £16 worth of asparagus, broccoli £39. And basically the way that I do this is I look online at the average supermarket price for organic produce. So I'll look at places like Morrison's, I'll look at Tesco's. Tesco's is typically middle of the road, and then Ocado, Asda, places like that. And what I'll do is I'll take the average kind of price, and they're all pretty much the same, to be honest with you. Obviously some are slightly cheaper than others, but they're all pretty much so. What I'll do is I'll give you the price of what it is per kilo and basically how much we've made. So asparagus is £20 a kilo to buy. Obviously, you only bought little packets of it, but that was £16. Broccoli was £1.50 a kilo, and I've had £39 worth of that. Cucumbers £1 each, and I've had so far, even though there's more to pick, I've had 49, so that's cucumbers, so that's £49. Rhubarb, fruit is always a big money spinner basically. Rhubarb is £5 a kilo, and it actually works out that I've had £200 worth of rhubarb off this allotment this year. Raspberries £12 a kilo, and I've had £120 worth of raspberries. Strawberries are £10 a kilo. That's £180 worth of strawberries in total. Runner beans, can't go wrong with runner beans. I've actually had £275 worth of runner beans off the allotment this year, and by far majority of them, as I've explained, I've got over 50 kilos in the freezer now. Runner beans are £5.50 a kilo on average. That's organic, fresh runner beans bought from a supermarket would cost you £5.50 a kilo. Potatoes, I've priced at £1 a kilo, and that's based on fresh organic potatoes bought in the supermarket. Obviously, if you buy them in sacks, they do work out cheaper. But that means I've had £293 worth of potatoes at the allotment this year. And bearing in mind they cost me nothing because all the seed potatoes came from the year before. There's still about 2/3 of a row left in there, so I estimate there's probably about another 20 kilos or so of potatoes still in the allotment. Tomatoes at £2 a kilo. I've had £105.60p worth of tomatoes out of this greenhouse this year. Courgettes 40p each on average, so I've had £15.20's worth of courgettes. Swedes at £1 each. They're the good size Swedes if you buy them in the supermarket. They're £1 each. So I've had 11 so far of those. Obviously there's more in the allotment still to come. Beetroot 60p each for the for the good size beetroot. So I've had £15 60s worth of beetroot out of the allotment this year. Sweet corn, I've had £7.50s worth of sweet corn so far, and there's more to come. And kale is £7.50 a kilo, and basically that basically works out. I've had £9 worth of kale out of the allotment so far this year. So in total, all of that, and obviously I haven't included onions and things like that yet. That'll all go into the later one. That's a total of, believe it or not, £1,144.40p worth of produce out of this allotment this year. And then if you subtract what I've spent this year, that means I've made a total profit of £1,332.40p. Now when you look at it that way, it's most certainly worthwhile. There's obviously a reasonable amount of work that goes into an allotment, and when you've got it, when you've got your allotment into the state that I've got mine, where the ground's really good, I've worked out where I can get everything for free. Muck, wood chip, and all that kind of thing. I get all that for nothing. Coffee, which I put down, which is obviously fertiliser, I get for nothing. So what I'm basically putting in is basically just hard work, and you do need to bear in mind the time that you spend up the allotment. And I wouldn't like to put a price on that because I enjoy doing it. So you can't really do that. But when you write it all down, it is quite amazing how actually if you went to a shop and bought it, how much you'd actually spend on it. So basically, in total, when you believe I've made £1,144 worth of fruit and vegetable off this allotment, and when you take out the expenditure, that's £1,332.40. It's most certainly well worth considering. But as I say, there is amount of work involved, and it's taken me quite a few years to get my allotment into the state where it's easy to look after. But that's the costing so far. As I say, what I will do later in the year is I will go through, as all the other things in, like the onions and all the other bits and bobs, the pumpkins, the ginger, the sweet potato, and mind you, I don't expect that's going to be much to be honest. I think that's a bit of a failure. We've also got the purple sprouting broccoli to go in. We've got the rest of the normal broccoli to go in. There's still a load of kale down there. We've still got the parsnips, which are not in yet. We've still got a load of swede. We've still got a load of beetroot to go in, and there's more sweet corn to go in. After all that's put in, I'll redo the figures and I'll let you know what it all is. But that's basically where we stand today. Okay, so it's now time to get the seeds out of the sunflowers ready for next year. Now, if your greenhouse is anything like mine, it's quite sort of condensated and got quite a lot of rain today, so we can't do much outside. But as you can see, the seeds are now starting to change colour. And a really good way to tell is if you get the sunflower and just rub your fingers, you should be able to, the seeds should start to come out. As soon as they do come out, get yourself a bowl just to collect them, and then so I can show you. And just basically just put the sunflower like that, and then if you articulate the sunflower a little bit, and then just rub it with your thumb, and if you can see that, the seeds will start to come out. Now, as soon as they start to come out, what you need to do is just gently rub. We're going everywhere at the minute. Just rub your thumb on the seeds like that, or your fingers. Rub it, just rub them like that, and then you'll find that the seeds will just sort of come out. And what you're doing is you're kind of pulling they're held in with like these little, I don't know if you can see them, but there's like little holders for each of the seeds. But if you rub your thumb along the seeds like that, you'll find that you just gently like that, and you'll find that they all kind of release from the little holders underneath. Now, it takes you a little while to do this, so what you want to do is most certainly not damage the seeds as you get them out. But if you just rub them like that, they will come out. Now, as soon as you've got them out, what I'm going to be doing now
is taking these seeds down to the house, and I'll just put them, because obviously the environment in the house is a lot drier than it is at the greenhouse now, and it'll stop any sort of fungus forming on the seeds, which is obviously something that's going to cause the seeds to get damaged. Now, from one sunflower you're going to get absolutely hundreds of seeds, and a few of you have asked me to send you some of these, which is absolutely no problem at all. So out of one sunflower you'll get thousands and thousands of seeds, particularly if the head's this big. Now, even if you get smaller sunflowers, you know, like something like this, like that, you know, the seeds from there are just as good as these. I always tend to save the large one, so I'm sort of guaranteed of large ones next year, but there's no reason why to, you know, you can't think if you get the seeds from a small flower, there's no reason to think why it won't grow into a large one next year, really. So, you know, even if you have got small flowers this year, there's absolutely no reason why you can't save the seeds from that and expect to, you know, to get a nice big flower like this one next year. So, you know, even if your sunflowers haven't done particularly well this year, don't worry, save the seed, and they'll grow into nice big sunflowers for you next year, all being well. Now, I've got most of these off, as you can tell. You know, it's not taken too long to do that. I tend to leave the ones in the middle, and them don't tend to come out particularly easily. But as you can see, you know, there's, you know, most of them have come out now already. As you can see in here, I've got all of those in the tray. Now, what you do tend to get is a little, like a sticky residue on them. But what I'm going to do is make sure that they're flat in the tray like that. And what I might actually do is put them in a another trick that I use is putting them in a like a you know, like a baking tray, like a metal baking tray. What you need to do is try and get the seeds as far apart as you can get them. So if there is any that have got a little bit of fungus on or whatever, you know, they're not touching another one next to it and sort of cross-infecting, if you like. So, you know, you only need to do one flower, but always remember, you know, even if you're not going to save all of your seed, then put the sunflowers outside, so the little animals can get at them. You know, mice, birds, you know, anything like that will all be grateful of sunflower seeds. Now that the season's over, you know, food's going to become more and more scarce for the little animals in you know, in your country, and you know, this will most certainly give them nutrition, you know, to build up their sort of fat reserves, if you like, for the winter. So what I do is I typically save some to put outside for the birds, and I also put some in the chicken huts. The chickens absolutely love these. I've shown you on videos before where they sort of absolutely go at these like a machine gun, and they'll strip a sunflower in a matter of, you know, 20 minutes or so. There'll be nothing left of it. So that, you know, as I say, the middle ones here, you know, you can save them, but the closer to the centre that you get, it gets a little bit more difficult to do. But you know, as you've seen just through the course of this little clip, you know, within sort of 5-10 minutes, you've got yourself a massive bowl. I mean, there's got to be thousands or so seeds in there. So all I'm going to do now is I'll give the rest up to the chickens. Put these in the house on a baking tray. Put them somewhere nice and dry, not too warm. Don't put them on top of a radiator or anything like that. Just put them on a tray. Try to spread the seeds out as much as you can. So I'll probably put these, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll probably put these on a couple of trays, and then just spread them all out. Let them dry for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. If that, to be honest with you. I mean, these are really dry, so probably within, you know, like a few days or a week or so, they'll be nice and dry. As soon as they've dried, put them in a brown paper bag, and then store them over the winter somewhere nice and dry, warm. And dry is important. If it's cold, it doesn't make too much difference as long as there's no condensation. But put them into a paper, either an envelope or a paper bag or something like that. Put them in the shed somewhere where you know where they are. Obviously, you don't really need to mark these up because you know what they are. You know, it's obviously looking at them. And then they'll be ready for you next year. Now, you plant these in the spring. I normally put them in probably the end of April. Plant them point first down about 2 inches in the ground, and then these will make some fantastic sunflowers for next year. So that's how you keep your sunflowers seeds. Okay, I just want to spend a couple of minutes just explaining what I'm going to be doing in the next sort of few weeks or few months, right? You know, working through the winter. Now, even though the you know, nothing's growing at the moment, you know, most things are sort of going over. You know, there are still loads of jobs that you can do, and it's at this time of year that most people sort of put the allotments to bed and don't do anything. But you know, it is worthwhile now at this time of year thinking about what you're going to be doing next year. What didn't work particularly well this year? What you're going to be doing next year, and try and improve the infrastructure of the allotment. What I mean by infrastructure is, you know, what you've got on the allotment, which makes life easy. Now, if you spend a bit of time and a little bit of money now doing certain things, what you will do is make your life a lot easier during the year. And typically when you've had an allotment for just 1 or 2 years, you know, you don't typically have too much stuff around you to make things easy. One thing that does make things easy is obviously this greenhouse, because I can grow the stuff in here, and the second greenhouse, which you don't see very often. The tunnels are an absolute godsend, because they save me a whole raft of money and time and effort, most certainly in you know, the sort of the brassicas and stuff like that. And obviously last year what we did to improve the infrastructure of the allotment is we sorted out the drainage. So we put the drainage in the year before, and put that interceptor, which is just a sunken barrel in the ground. And last year we concreted all the top and made a steel sort of manhole plate to go over that. And we built the fence to go round the rhubarb, to basically hold that in, and that was made out of a couple of old sheds and some old fence panels. And obviously that didn't cost anything really. I think the drain cover actually cost. I got the steel from work, which had basically just been scrapped, and I just welded that up and made you know, the lid. And then the rest of it was just basically concrete, and I think in total that cost about you know, sort of £15 worth of concrete or something like that. That's basically all it cost. The fence for the rhubarb actually cost £3.30, and all that was the screws that I needed to screw in the no, sorry, it was the nails, and it was just to nail the panels back together so we could make the fence. So that's the kind of infrastructure that we did last year. And obviously over the winter months I made the weather vane, which you see outside. So typically every winter I make a weather vane. Don't ask me why, I just like making weather vanes, but they're always nice for the allotment, I think. So, and obviously at the beginning of this year I improved the fence going across for the espalier fruit trees. So that was kind of the improvements that we made this year. Now, over the next few months I'm going to be making a few more improvements, working towards next year. And the one thing that I am going to be doing is the second tunnel. Obviously I improved the first tunnel this year. I put some more strengthening bars in it, but if you remember, a few months ago I managed to get hold of some Harrison fencing, and I've been taking that apart in the garden, and basically what I'm going to do is going to use the tubes off that to fabricate a new tunnel. Now tunnels are quite expensive. If you look on the internet, there's various companies that are actually doing them, and the tunnels work out at something like £1,000 for the one that, you know, the size that I've got, which is it's 22 foot long and 8 foot wide, and I've seen them on the internet for around that kind of price. Now you can make these reasonably easy if you're pretty good with your hands, and basically all you need to do is get yourself some pipe, and as I say, the ones that I've got all sorts in there. I've got scaffolding pipe, which I managed to get. I've got the actual hoop part of the one that I'm going to take apart to make the new one is the ring off an old an 8 foot trampoline. So when my children got to the age where they weren't using the trampoline so much, and a few of the safety net around the edge of it sort of disintegrated and stuff, we decided to sort of scrap it out of the garden. So of course, sort of bearing in mind what I was going to do in the allotment, I thought, I know what I can make out of that, and that's where I made the tunnel. Now I made it about 5 years ago, and to be honest with you, the middle section of it is wooden, and that's basically seen its best. So what I'm going to be doing is taking that one apart, and I'm going to be constructing a new one. I'm still playing around with a few ideas. At the moment it's 8 foot wide, and it's 22 foot long. It will still be 22 foot long, because what I like to do is put the runner beams at the end of them, so I don't want it to be the whole width of the allotment, because I like it when you're pushing the wheelbarrow up and down the path, you don't want to knock into it because you'll damage the net. And I like to have a bit of space, a metre or so at the back of them, so I can put in, some years I put the sunflowers there, or I'll put the runner beans down there. But it basically keeps my options open to to put some stuff up up the back of them, to sort of use the ground as best I can. Now what I have found is the debris net that I bought for the second one has worked out really well. I wasn't quite sure to start with, because I thought it may block too much of the light out. Now the net that I bought for the first one was reasonably expensive. I spent about 40 pounds or so on the it's like the 1/2 inch or sort of 15mm mesh. The problem that I've had with that, it lets all the light through, obviously, and that's really good, but cabbage white butterflies go straight through. They basically land on it and crawl through and then fly onto and then lay their eggs, and caterpillars and all over your brassicas, which is what you want to avoid. So what I have done is I've bought some more of the debris net, which is the green, bright green stuff, and this is used for going around scaffolding in building sites to stop the rubbish going onto the ground. So I've bought a load of that. It cost £16. Got that over the internet, and if you go on eBay, there's a whole raft of places selling it. You can get it in orange, green, black, dark green. I've opted for the bright green again, so it matches the other one. But so I'm going to be putting that over the over the new tunnel. But what I am going to be doing is basically taking this tunnel apart, using the hoops that are there now, and what I'm going to be doing is basically replacing the middle part with the steel pipes off the Harrison fencing. So as I say, I'm taking the Harrison fencing apart now, and I'm basically going to remake the steel in the middle again. At the moment the middle bit's wooden, so I'm going to basically make that a bit better, because the materials that I had to start with weren't that good, so I just basically made it as best I could with what I'd got, which is all about allotmenteering. You do what you can with what you've got around you, rather than spending money. But now I've been able to get these Harrison fences, I've got all of the materials that I need to basically make a much better job of it, which is going to last me much longer. I mean, I'm expecting as soon as I've built this, it's going to last 20 years or plus. So it's going to be well worth the while, the time and effort going into it to make it. The Harrison fence didn't cost me anything. I've taken all of them apart. Obviously I'm going to need to weld the pipes together. I'm going to bend them and stuff, so there is a little bit of cost associated there. And I'm going to have to cut the pipes with the angle grinder, so there's some cutting discs to be used as well, which aren't expensive. Again, if you go on eBay, places like that, you can get them pretty cheaply. The cutting discs cost me about 20p each or something like that. If you go to places like B&Q, they're about £2 or £3 for 2 or 3 in a packet, so they're about £1 each. Go on eBay, you can find them much cheaper, or if you go to any of the tool shacks and places like that, you can get them a lot cheaper as well. But so I'm going to be making the tunnel. That's going to be done over the next sort of couple of months, as I've got the time to do it. The reason I've used Harrison fencing for really is sort of 3 reasons. One, it's steel, so it's going to be nice and strong, and it's going to withstand the weather. 2, it's galvanised, so it's even though I'm going to paint it, I'm going to get some paint and paint the whole framework before I put the net over it, just to give it that bit more protection. But it is galvanised, so I know full well it's going to last. And the third reason is the Harrison fencing pipe work. It's rolled steel, seam welded pipe, and that's reasonably lightweight. Now the tunnels, as you know, I move them up and down the allotment. So you want something that's reasonably easy to move about. You don't want anything that's too hot, so heavyweight. And this first one, there is some scaffolding pipe in there, the bottom part of scaffolding. Now, if you're going to keep it in one place, to be honest with you, it's not been too bad to move. I get some of the lads off the allotment to help me move them up and down. 4 people can easily
well, 2 people really can easily move them up and down. It's not too bad, you know, just inch them along, and you know, you can move them quite easily. But what I want to do is try and make that a little bit easier to move, so I can basically just 2 people can just easily pick them up and shift them to the new position for the next year. So that's why I've used Harrison fencing. The other improvement that I'm going to make is I've managed to get a load of sheet aluminium, which was scrap, and I'm going to make the bottom sort of 2 foot or so of the tunnel up the sides and at the back are going to be aluminium pop riveted onto the framework. The reason I've done this is we get a reasonable amount of wind up in the allotment, and if you grow brassicas and stuff like that, they tend to get a bit blown about and sort of rocked about in the wind. So what I want to do is build in some protection into the tunnel. I've also used aluminium because it isn't going to rust and it's going to be lightweight. So again, it's going to be easy to move and you know put in the new position. And also because I'm going to be pop riveted on there, it's going to keep the whole thing square, and it's going to make it a lot more rigid, and you know, it'll be much more easy. Of course, because it is lightweight, what I do need to do is drive stakes into the ground. When I've moved it to the new position, I'll need to drive stakes into the ground to sort of hold it onto the ground, if you like, because what I have had in the past is the second one I built, the wind got under it, and it did blow it over and bent all the pipes, and I had to fix it up. So most certainly, if you do make a tunnel to grow your brassicas or fruiting or whatever, you most certainly need to drive some, you know, good strong steel stakes into the ground and anchor it down. So what I typically do is move it to the position that I need, drive a stake in at each corner and in the middle, halfway up each side, drive it into the ground as far as you can possibly get it, a couple of foot if not more, and then I cable tie that to the tunnel, so if the wind does catch it, you know, it's anchored to the ground, it's not going to go anywhere. So that's all coming up in the next few months. Over the winter months, really, sort of December, January time, I'm also going to be making a third anemometer or windmill, just for the hell of it, to be honest with you. But that's going to be coming up as well, and that's going to go in the middle of the second row where the raspberries are. So I'm going to be putting in the pipe, the pole for it to stand on over the next few weeks whilst the weather's not too bad, so I can dig the hole and get the pipe in there and fix it all in. And then I'll be making that over the winter months whilst there's not a lot to do with the allotment. So that's what's coming up. I just wanted to explain basically what's coming up over the next few months. Obviously there is going to be a lot more stuff. There's going to be plants going on, there's going to be still fruiting, digging, preparing the ground for next year. I'm going to be improving the asparagus bit here. I've got some more wood now to finish that off properly. I'm going to be mulching all the ground, cutting all the things back. I'm going to be digging the strawberries out and you know, sort of re-preparing the strawberry bed and getting that all nice for next year, putting the strawberries back in for the spring, and there's a whole other bits and bobs you know, to be going on. And we're also going to start doing the Mother Nature parts again. There's a whole raft of new stuff I want to explain to you, to arm you with the information that's going to help you do your allotment. So that's all coming up in the next few months. So I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below. I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Love Garden.